ahwefo yema ye ho akwaba eba ye empomponso a yedu a ye fa asem baako na ye bubu mu de ye frɛ no asem kese eno so na yedui. This is the time where we do a reflection of a major happening na ene yaye yadwene se ensem a esisi afenimu from the perspective of journalists. Ensem a ko wankrata mu eba TV so ene ensem a ye hwe wo amansan fidie ententan kese so no eno na ene ye ba bedomu esuko. They are friend the review of happenings in the country or Ghana in perspective. Na enemeni aje say me bra bi ababe come sa ye ne no babe di dwuma ye friend Ora Peter Wonders. Peter Wonders, he is a lecturer with the African University College of Communication. Officer, good to see you. Good to see you.
Say, one mommy, a quenya kasi say, Yane Ghana for Emedi Inkitown.
Yeah.
Beniaje.
And that's say your friend also so by. I don't know, sorry, well, a journalist and a lecturer, they are used to waking up early so you can meet up your demands.
I know correct. Nemo say, Brunya Idi, name say, Anantanante no Nadoso.
Yeah, Juju.
Obreso Egum.
Okay. I am back.
Nemo Muno Sabekafra say, Abribia to Zafra when the Humbing say, Sabekafra, Ushionka Karawanyano, also Obeche.
Okay.
Ama amansan wo afa adwen ana say omo so ma kere omo adwen e wo ne on sampe kai ho.
Okay. I see. Enti yen hwe AUCC den na wo ye specifically wo kira de nemu den na wo kire e wo.
Me kire crisis communication management, me kire branding,
okay.
Me kire climate change, media and development, principles of management. No na ya de kese a me kire e wo ACC ho.
Okay. That's ya students ne ka say a for the ana mutimu ya the more mark. I hope say o de o go nsem.
Oh, yeah, ka say nsem go na imumu no sabe kafra sabe yo menye nipa manage e wo school for a omo feel ho. Na me ta ka say teacher ni wa bon ana ne mba so ye de ebon sabe kafra say won bon ya o kira de wo say nkola tumi ti ase na omutwa e di say dodo no a efelia na je say won na ebia de kire no wan kire yi wan fo man ndum pempen so a e wo say omo ti ase tumi etwere man wo you wo bebi a obeka say nkola nso anhwia de be wo na wo say wo ma na yati ase nso hwe de media wo hwa branding a me kire yi say majai enso hwe twere omo ntro nso hwe biem me man say yami anhwe practicals yami anhwe nti me kire wade ni wia na wo de wonsa anwene bebi na ma hwe nti utumi nwene ya na ma hwe so na me de abu watan eno ane
say na lecturers after all. Dear viewers, we are looking at Ghana in focus and we are having a preview of happenings from the month of January till date as we speak. Our brother Mr. Peter Wonders, who teaches at the AUCC, is with me and we are going to start the discussion. Uncle Peter, let's start our discussion with politics. Politics from January till now. What has been your major take off when it comes to politics?
Considering the courses I spoke about with regard to the ones I lecture, crisis communication management or crisis management, I'll take it from that angle.
Okay.
We have something we call the image repair theory. Whenever your image is dented or is tarnished, you find a way to do what? Restore it. And Timefa every that angle. Now here, Obi to say Honorable Adjoa Safo, any Honorable Akompreko Kennedy Ajepon. Omona mi hunu se afi mu ewumu se bebre no anka adesa theories no mahunu ewo omone ye mu be sa nipa mienu ye won a amanamo bi omu tu ye me hu say omu use that theory ne pa na mintimi nkyere courses a sabio omu ko university omu go sua ya na say e bia omu aye refresher courses a omu tumi exhibit sa theories no e wo omu ni ye mu te say obi te say honorable adwasafo say ebedu ba bi ye hwe no parliament kwa no a ye hu no ntema ne mpesofo no the constituency no ombufu ye enti ma me ne hunu sa pe ntempara ne oye no do no criticize there thinking say they didn't know what she was doing. But from where I sit, she was trying to use the image repair theory.
Deny a strategy.
A strategy. Wow. So winning and no winning. I'm not going to tell yogurt. Okay. It was a strategy.
Okay.
Oh, and yet suddenly I'm what that's not me. It's you know me will be a me wabadaye. Me will be a sabika cry me yamam. That's what she was communicating.
Asam naba.
You see it? And then you see a honorable Ken a compreko. And also no na oko two bi embre bi atwam. Say MPP for Embro NDC for our stronghold. And he never explained the reason why he came out with that particular bombshell until quite recently.
Okay.
When we say there was a man, or there's a man from Nkonya Ahinkro by name Honorable Solomon Donko, MPP ni SI DC, Jansikan, not knowing Oko Honorable Ken Fee, Eko born and Mania say Nkonya Hinfo, Abo Deuro say, Nkolata Tofefe, Yantro Edi, Niantoaba. Now, only Nkonya for area hono, a NDC for stronghold. Nisi Yantro Edi, Niantoaba, I'm from the better man, NDC for, and the end for Kayano. Anna. Yet see any before no a bromo, Sana Solomon, what catcher a compreko. Name a compreko about the Casamano, one church the Musa, or be no free sir, be I bomb me a man, into the meso meca say, some more boy and crow form, once or dear, and yes, you have boom and crow form. Okay. One of the channel, and Tamro Bedi, or Mampahino, Sa, some we a PFE more, I want young man for a pajas, I was in the Mepacho. Anofuma, at your bro. Enyemenia na emumu no obi na etu mrika ebetia menan so na sabeka fra otifie mpo na se obi aka se ye buru babo abonte ye ayamhyehyia na ominya he no
Eja Peter, mema offer another example from the side of the NDC and if possible the CPP, but memfa adebin tudwa ahwefo. For the first time, we are bringing you a certain perspective of happenings in the country, especially politics, from the Christian point of view. And some no, you know, abasa enesre name ye we are now for the Christo dear no so awono. Now, this is to say a Christo for crown. Yes, also yetimi edim koma efa amanyo sam ho ene omamun sam ho. Name ye ya ye the Christo sam no efufamu. After this in CP before, do they also do something that brings out the strategy you are talking about?
Now, if you ask, make us say Ura Mahama on the Yamen Chadi, or His Excellency, when can say that? I said because you know more for me, or honestly your communication, okay, and or your expert in this particular area. And also on the make us say. Meka afi emrebi atwam na me da be wo afi mudie emro nya lusu the past election no me ehunu say na odo e wo ni area ho a ote no the machine edo and nkofo antena say at the point people thought say owura mahama no oni abadaye ema nipa owura mahama nya obi a yetumi eben no owura mahama nya obi a sabeka fra ohia na so de sadia me anka be nkwa meta machine abesi ho mado ama hu se me so me sabe me yobrefo ba enti amra odon enipa twemu ade ehun no saade na ono so ye no eno so ade image restoration theory
say not onye dada base the amount for no kind of cry
onye nipa you can't easily approach so no ono opese oye no then question the say me de me nshabo me nshabo me nka sem bia be say ya sem fro biara ensam de da no na me ka kire me mfa mfa be bia eno so opese kire say me ma on say me mama no nkoyi me ka biem so obo no ho ban say obedente the image.
Very interesting. You were training other political parties, CPP4, any other independent candidates, almost so much to me, BB damage control repair strategy. But dear friends, we've been joined in the studios by our brother Pakwesi Shandoff, who is a journalist and two-time nominee for BBC Kwamla Domo Award. My brother, you are welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
You say Nancy traffic in
yeah.
So we understand.
A hard drink. Especially within this
festivities. But good to have you on studios.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
You name so besha batakari. And another name say Pierrot, so Gamisu batakari.
Oh, me son, what I say what? Sir, me son, what? Hey, now so my chef you will be me.
Yeah, I know. Also, I show you. Yeah. Me crab yes of for crab. What the prophecy name? What the decent name? I found me seriously. We've been looking at happenings in the country.
Name say, okay, say, so
yes.
And the answer, okay, image restoration. Okay, yes, because you at the point. Or you. Beside the senior for say, almost who am I? Almost then I'm going people have spoken a lot about him. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Into most one men and who do you say I am? I don't know your image repair theory. No, you know,
sir.
To ask them, almost a man to me in car, a hot and obey who he is. Fortunately, the Holy Spirit spoke to one of the disciples and says, "You are the Messiah." Not that someone okay if he's so there.
Flesh and blood.
True.
And so it was there. He was trying to use the same theory. And the Bible kind of most of these theories in our Bible.
Now, Meka say today we want to make a point as we get closer to the year. Say, amanyo sem, ene say o Kristo needing ano to in somewhere koso ewo oman no. Ye wakwenya see etimi ye bi na mmom ye de ye be say ye no ewo Kristo afa. And so today we have two Christian brothers who are taking perspective of politics, economics, and even sports. Ye ka na ye di Kristo abata ho. Ni hu say yeso so ye betimi aye bi. Shando, what is your greatest political story in the whole of the year?
Well, normally in any national calendar, you have a lot of political developments. But if I have to single out one, I think I would focus and dwell more on Alan Tremantin's departure from the NPP.
Okay.
Now I find that to be the biggest of all the
ni lack of your gale we ga foot we be anaka sound of your all right, sure.
No, my pick Alan Tremantin's exit as the biggest is because Onake Ghana, Dan, we know it's the New Patriotic Party or the National Democratic Congress. I mean, since 1992, traditionally, they have been the parties that have governed and all of that. Then all of a sudden, a big, figure like him, a titan, comes out, and then he decides to go on his own. And it has gathered a lot of momentum. Indeed, if you look at all the research now about 2024 election, it's pointing to the fact that his departure would have an impact, particularly on one of the parties. I find that to be big, especially for the fact that he's coming from a region that happens to be the nerve center of the New Patriotic Party. So it would definitely affect their fortunes, and largely it would impact the whole general outcome of the election. So I found that to be the biggest development in it was also big for, again, because of the fact that I don't know, but a lot of people perceive Alan to be the ideal model Christian politician. So you won't see Alan engage in any vitriol, any excessive remarks, and all of that. That kind of, should I say, a angelic disposition. He comes off as a very appealing fellow to an extent. Well, I really
find the story to be
yes,
interesting.
Extremely interesting. Extremely.
Peter, ubetimi also who Alan Tremantin's story no saying from the perspective as a lecturer.
I was highly disappointed.
Okay.
In Alan Tremantin.
Okay.
Because you realize that the past election, the last election between Alan Kanejepon and then His Excellency Bawumia was not about policy, about who has the best policy. It was all about branding. The one who branded himself well won. Whilst His Excellency Bawumia was going all over telling Ghanaians that he was the best candidate to beat His Excellency John Mahama and the Mr. Digital, the youngest among them, and all that. Akompreko was also telling them that, listen to me, I'm for those who didn't have the opportunity to chop. When I come, you will chop. So come and follow me. I'm for the grassroots. Then Alan came in with this, that Edumeso. So ask yourself, the youth who are to vote, did they know your impact? I do so. They didn't do so. They know why I do so. Especially those who the 18 years and above who have now started to also exercise their franchise. Then a year party no more omunim. When Ken Hunu said, "Nkofo nim nia all ye no." Quickly, I say, "Obi a 1 year position biya, obi a comedy no party no." Those who were neglected, ni na no, momra, I'm for you. I'll settle you. The people who thought say, "Me manya he party no mudia, me ko di Ken timenya bibidia." Man to man maraba, na me so manya biya she.
Okay.
Once Bawumia say, "Me so I'm a digital man. I'm the only person who can beat Mahama because I've done it before. We are from the northern region, so we know ourselves." Then we tell us something.
Okay.
Then I do so. And the most painful aspect was that my brother Shandov. I'm not going to be able to tell the party, And near my MPP more on who feels so.
Okay.
I was upon a time I saw him dancing on the stage. Wait money for
no answer.
Answer.
Okay.
But gentle, but Ghana politics no. Yeah, for them do things fine you. Oh, na me channel. But say no nere since Alan bedu any party me hu nere da. This was the first time nere backstage on nukunu. Elsa. Na me say enti owu Alan. Sa de ewu ni mo ye. Na ka wo ye ya. Anka UT hunu se be kafara. Onyo luma we abrante e. Bet me to Obama.
But one say the system in the party was not allowing him to, as it were, express himself, the cabal in the NPP. So maybe perhaps that is why he couldn't show that kind of enthusiasm while he was there.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that. Because on the stage, when he was campaigning, who stopped him from dancing? Who stopped him from dancing?
Okay.
For all these
dancing need a cabal be unstoppable from dancing.
No, but psychologically,
psychologically,
when you are impaired psychologically and you don't feel liberated within a particular circle, maybe there are some things you can. I'm just saying we should give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was not very happy, so he would rather not do a couple of things.
My brother was Kanejepon happy. Was he liberated?
The two personalities are different. The way some people handle issues,
from a Christian perspective, Yenka say, Wedjani Akun, has he run away from his responsibility? Responsibility and Van say party demand and it says Ahuchile Bintino, Wedjani Echo baby for Fran. Now can we say that in just 1 minute?
No, Creo Casa make us say. Why I said Gehazi Suba in the
okay.
Gehazi. Embro D for Elisha. Esa a Naaman, ya dear we. I say Embra Elijah Bedia dear as D4.
Yeah.
Or Empire by Isansa no Ujani say what if I call whatever man so Nukoya and go slay back Elisha's way. Anke fi Elisha so anke ko Gehazi so. Na mumu no otwen homa na oni bi enti. Na otu mrika ko je damudie. Sa damudie die no. Ene man na de ni ministry
oni otwen homa.
I want to sharply disagree with that.
Right. I think I like that.
In any case, Alan has actually been
the most patient person.
I mean, waiting for a very long time.
Okay.
In a Christian context, I think it's not the case of he departing from what he had to do.
Okay.
If you read, I think Acts chapter 13, verse 2 or something, the Holy Spirit once said that the apostles should separate Paul and Barnabas for him, and he used all of them efficiently. So I think sometimes God will just want to separate people for his own purposes.
I do this. Okay, but let's pick it from Alhaji Dr. Bawumia. He's now the new face of the MPP.
Exactly.
A person who we all know is a Muslim, but by and large has attended almost every big Christian function. For we as Methodists, he has been to almost all our functions. In fact, he claims, which I don't doubt, that he was a member of the Boys Brigade.
Yeah.
Do you see that he's also winning a section of the Christian populace or the Christian voters?
Not at
really.
all. I find all of those, for the want of a better word,
Political
all those,
gimmicks.
Yes, and I find them to be extremely unnecessary because in a political context, I don't think there is any. I mean, we have any deep-seated reservations for people who are not Christians. I honestly don't think so. The conversation has always been about your policies, your competence, your track record, and what you can do if given the mandates to lead.
So you could still be a Muslim and Christians will vote for you if you have good policies.
So he's rather awakening that religious sensitivity. He's the one doing it. And the manner in which he's doing it, he's now drawing people's attention to the fact that, look, okay, I belong here. And I think it's unfortunate because it is needless. Here in Ghana, we have had, who was President Kufuor's vice President? Aliyu Mahama.
Yes.
Okay, during the time he was around, and indeed, a lot of portfolios have been held by Muslims in this country before. We don't discriminate. Ghana doesn't have that, and we should be thanking God for it. But he seems to be coming around with that kind of energy. And you see, the moment you start doing it, you will let people start thinking twice. Why is he dancing in this church? Why is he doing this? Why is he saying once upon a time he was in the Boys and Girls Brigade? Okay, is it necessary? I mean, when it comes to national affairs, even in the Bible, God has used, pagan nations to amplify his messages before. He has used leaders who were not really of the Commonwealth of Israel to push his agenda. So why are you I find all of that to be very unnecessary.
Wow.
It's one of the things about his campaign I've not been particularly, excited about at all.
Okay, sure. Peter, do you think Alhaji Dr. Bawumia being the flag bearer is winning the Christian voters?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
You see, in 2000 election, if you quite remember, before the election, there were tracks stating countries in Africa that are Muslim countries and Christian countries who are also shifting from the Christendom to Islamic. And there was this fear that once we vote for NPP, by then Dr. Alhaji Aliyu Mahama was the vice president. Yeah. They said, should we vote for them? They will turn what they call Ghana into a Muslim country. The fear engulfed, and look, some of us, most of us, myself, I wasn't happy, although I wouldn't state where I belong as it stands now. Yeah. I wasn't happy at all with their card. It was later that they were able to dilute that assertion. And before Alhaji Bawumia started his campaign too, I picked some grapevine information stating that Christians wouldn't vote for him because he's a Muslim. Because Christians were afraid that looking at the way Islam is overtaking some nations, they are penetrating and all that, they needed a strong Christian. And for that matter, Alhaji Bawumia started visiting churches. Once upon a time, forgive me to say, a church, I already mentioned the name of the church, and one of the biggest churches in Ghana, the pastor, was lambasting, Islam, and for that matter, I realized he was shifting towards Bawumia. Quickly, I saw Alhaji going to that church. And since then, I've never had a pastor condemning Bawumia and Islam.
Alhaji is a strategist.
Yes.
Or branding who you.
I told you from what I said as a brand expert. Yes. I think he's rather branding himself.
Wow.
Of course, yes.
Ashefo, before you come in, let me remind our viewers where we are now. We want to remind ourselves that we are looking at happenings in Ghana. Yeyi amanyo sem and yede sha. So we'll go to other issues. Now, you don't know our political inclinations. So we are discussing the issues out of political emotionalism and sensationalism. And I am happy that between the two brothers, Shandoff, you want to put in something?
Yes, I wanted to say that anybody who holds the view that Bawumia is persuading Christians is actually not the person is not thinking about the Christian voters as logical. The reason is, Christian voters are not gullible.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm a voter, I will not vote for anybody because of your religious persuasion.
Okay.
I'll peruse your policies, I'll examine your competence. Indeed, I'll go ahead and review the kind of person you are and vote.
Okay.
So just by associating yourself with, the Christian community, if anybody thinks that will translate into votes, the person is unintentionally, maybe even insulting the intelligence of the Christian voters.
Okay.
Because it's not, we are not doing identity politics.
Okay.
What we do is politics of substance here in this country.
So that Christian voters may vote for Alhaji, but they are going to be very discerning based on the policies that are
the
laid.
economy as we have it, in all honesty, is currently in doldrums. We all know the state of our, economic situation.
Yeah.
And all of this have been presided over by Baumia as the head of the economic management team and all of that. Christian voters generally will be looking at some of these issues. The currency, the local currency as compared to other major trading currencies across the globe, GDP, and all of those, critical economic variables. These are the factors that would influence, the voter behavior of Christians, and generally, indeed, the generality of the Ghanaian populace on December 7, 2024. So if anybody is of the view that, well, somebody is a Christian, but the person has now gone to the mosque, or somebody is a Muslim, the person has now gone to the cathedral, and therefore, no, I think Ghanaians are waking. And you may want to examine the public reaction to some of these things that Baumia has been doing. It has been met with a lot of resentment. People are generally not happy because, you see, if we are not careful and we encourage that kind of narrative for a very long time, it begins to stoke a certain, Cold War. And these are some of the things that lead to some of these, civil unrest and all of that, because now people will start taking sides. I'm a Muslim. We don't want all of those things in Ghana. So if I were to advise him, or if I'm in a position to offer any recommendation, what I would state emphatically is that as the vice president, he's currently at the helm of affairs. Things are not going on well. He says he wants to lead. Well, fine, he can take that mandate. He should now begin to propose policies that can help us, change the narrative and redeem as it were, the misgovernance that he already and Nana Akufo-Addo have coughed. That is what I want to hear.
Right.
If you say you're a Muslim, I mean,
Okay.
how
So
does
it's neither here nor there. Whilst
really.
Peter thinks that as a lecturer of branding, he is branding himself.
You
So
see, my mother was talking about identity politics.
yes.
And you know for a fact that there's some even constituencies in Ghana, they will never ever vote for NPP
Of
or
course.
vote for NDC because of identity.
Absolutely.
Of course, yes. The only time LDP won a seat in the volta region, a strong voter, was this
Peter Amewu.
I don't even know whether they will retain him or not. And go to Bantama. Can you say NDC will win Bantama?
Of
So
course
if you
not.
say identity politics, they will place.
So as for ethnic identity, it's prevalent. But religious
he's
identity,
hitting the goalpost.
no,
He's hitting the goalpost.
he knows very well. Okay, he knows very well that identity politics it varies.
Yeah.
It can be tribal, it can be. But for the religious one, I don't think in Ghana.
Okay.
But
So-
you didn't say religious.
We
one. You
will
only said
leave our viewers to discern. Already you have said that Christians are discerning. We know a majority of our viewers are Christians. We know we also have some Muslims as well. This is not Christianity against Islam. It is how well you are able to brand yourself.
Yes.
But another person is also seeing a strategy and he is applying those strategies. Let's come to NDC. Mahama is the flag bearer. From the brand aspect, do you think he is also branded himself well, and does he stand in a position to catch the eye of the Christians?
Of course, yes. The first thing His Excellency Muhammad did was that he would do everything possible to unbrand all NDC big wings who can even contest him. As it sounds today, if Muhammad is not there, who is next? Tell me. I've been telling people that, look, Mr. Muhammad is what they call a good communication expert. Because he has branded himself in such a way that should we take him out today, anyone who comes will lose. Because it will take time to have someone branded to occupy that particular, seat.
Okay.
And what he's doing today, he's not talking that much.
Okay.
Muhammad Ajakasa, now he's reaching out to people, and I've told you, 2024 election is not about policy. is not about promises. It's not going to be about who is singing well, who is doing. It's about who has branded himself well. From where I sit.
Oh, so you think that for all the three main religious bodies, Christians, Islam, and the traditional religion, Muhammad has branded himself well to appeal to all the three?
Of course, yes. He has appealed himself to the Muslims, to the Christians, to the traditionalists. And in most festivals, you see him there. At the mosque, you see him there. At the church, you see him there. And most Sundays, you see him with a wife going to their church. I think this church, I've forgotten the name, Assemblies of God. You see him going to the church.
All right.
He identifies himself with the pastors, with the imams, with the traditionalists. It's all over.
All right. Let's have your view shortly on NDC
just like I said for Bawumia.
Yes.
I mean, in the case of former President John Dramani Mahama, his religious identity too is also insignificant.
Okay.
I mean, for a voter like myself, and I'm sure the generality
So
of the
being a
Kenyan
Christian
populace,
is not really
it's not significant.
Yeah.
It's about, you know, again, what he's coming to do if he's given the mandate to lead again. Now, we shouldn't forget the fact that we've seen former President John Dramani Mahama in office before. The track record is there. Yes, maybe situations may be worse, but in his regime as well, things were not exactly flamboyant. And there are a couple of them we can all recall. The difference between himself and Bawumia, however, is what normally in psychology is referred to as the recency effect. The ills of the NPP come readily to mind more than fresh. Bona, a bamlan fee. All the things that we had seen. I mean, in Mohammed's time, okay, and that is why, you know, Ghanaians normally make it look like Mahama is more angelic. But factually speaking, if you were to strike a comparison between the two of them, yes, one may be better, but Mahama was not entirely, you know, the as it were the finest of presidents. Yes, he had his you know, excellent parts, but yeah, there were some things too that didn't go on well. Same for the current regime, and that is why I'm saying that in 2024, my brother said that it's not going to be about policy. I'm inclined to agree. Yeah. It would not be about policy because now we've seen both of them. We've seen what they can do and what they cannot do. I think what will now come to the fore will be an issue of personal credibility. I think that is what is really going to be the decider. Because if it's about promises, we have seen Mahama, we've seen Bawumia.
He doesn't want to use my term, brandy. He doesn't want to use it.
No, so it's brandy.
All right,
Thank you, Honor. I wish we could say something on the CPP and even the other independent candidates, but because of time, I think we'll get it somewhere. But let's come to the bigger issue of IMF. Yanka bi anhyem yenyina yete ha COVID aba. Ye wie COVID. Ukraine ene Russia war so aba. Sese ya sanfa ye kuruwa ye disresrade akọ edwaman so akọ IMF say ye ho akere omo meboa yen. Edien na obedwen ho as a Christian person who is seeing our politicians repetitively sending us to IMF. Peter.
Sa topic yi topic eso.
Yeah.
Edin na ede abibiman enye Ghana pe abibiman ede ko ahonkyere mu a ende yekopie ewo IMF. Yensem bebre na ebi ye dependency theory. Sabeka fra kwasi broni be na adwene se oma unya onan so enyina. Senia un develop na bring nyina no sabeka fra opensia no nkura no a ewo se okọ nchen na ukonya bie na meka se nhyehyeye bone a yede ahyehye ye ho a ma oman no ntumi enyina ye nan eso titru esane se meye ochechire ni nti meka se media na bring nyina meka se Africa na adwene se media pempenso a the global world no akodu no ye mfa ye media no emfa develop ye man eba sa no de bie be kwa IMF then I'm saying me bra yenhwe enema ye ka ewo ye media so emu do wasan na eye de ema oman enyini
Media na negative
ye efri hwe say India nyini ye onyini anyina no eye media ekwan yo de ni media no efa so eye adwuma da bia meka ene media house ameka se hwe okwe kunkumbagia sa movie minja ho asam kan de minja katena okwe kunkumbagia who say India for actually that package on my and on market and the Gusa movie no. And so we share from difficulty atwayno na se bekafra why India ni adan entade empaboa enyom omo machines omo isu nyina no omo de ko wuru asa movie mu mama infanton baako hwe tricycle ene age Ghana man afa pragia he ne kuhuru wo kunkum bagia entade se ya entade ko ehye bia ebi ko ye wedding kura no a asi ahye India for entade je ko hu no wa fa tanu ane pragia na hye ne ye de ye hu ni enti na me pesa me ye te se abia na ho bahia se me koto aye de gu ye se bangu se fa ne sanyo omo ahene yi egu ye se wo mere ko a me ko adan menya ahene enti IMF asema ye kan pesa me de to fam kura na nyina ti se ne ye de ye ko IMF no ayame ane wo ane aban no ene no ne aban no ene wa wadwen se wonya wadwen se wo de wo ba hye Ghana ahene me ameti wo hwe meti kosi me nan ase dodo wo se na Ghana top ya me hye inkwa na Ghana sabe ka fra ne hye masi nyina no efi China nti bitu e be chan man ona be che no enti ane ye hwe TV so ye so ye movies no a India for atime ebiribi o mo de ton wo man no ko hwe Ghanaian movie eye Kuma Wudi a entade ye hye no de kokoboto ani ye de ye de se ani ye movies na ko ye bayisem nko ani abosomsam ani sabe ye abosomsam bayisem ani e fa ne say ghost e fa ne nko na saman ne ho nko ne ba anke o se position ye kente ye fugu ene sa na me nyina wom sabe ka fra oto ade a me shu a me jei wo ba me fi a kuma se shu nko na me jei de sabe ka fra we de che me international but sa ba tisika akoto Italian shoe party me faka okuma se koto e be gu ho nti IMF call the yade ebo oman no o kwan biara so na mo ban bia ba the only way no I ben say ye call IMF hwe say port ko no want to be talker car ayi friends visa na ye ton 27,000 na ko de bay and then 80,000 etiri e ba na say duty some year ye tua tax o man ya won tua tax ye won to be ntumpo na mo say tax na ye tua no ye hu so fa so a emfa ye nko IMF bi mu a e de nyankopon ase eni ma be important ye ya de ko IMF a ye ntumi hu sa de ma no entwe ye hu emfiri ho ena no brekum hene doma hene sorry doma hene e kire se na ajema ibadu e kire se koko no o say gold eni oil a ye tu o man mu percentage do say e na ba ye nten asoman ubehwe mu no embro 10% ni na broni na ye den atamko wo mrekwan wo tema refinery ye tu oil no wa ha ni ahye ko makwasi broni wa so ne so no wa side abre abodene ye koko a yate ye te koko no a ni atama ko makwasi broni ye ade any value ni ye ko makwasi broni wa dandere ni wa side abre as chocolate and then Milo ne hunko de ba ya se ato sika ne ko yifa e ko ne nchen na ya se ko se ye ko pe bosia wo bosia no wie a ye ko je contract dem so ba ye mfa ma Ghana ni ma no nya sa contract no e ye akwan ya ye twa ye so fa broni no
eno a chan ya
na chan ya wo sabe ese adwuma yi a ye ko je loan won nchen ya wo ba ye se adwuma no wo sabe tam sika na de akọ China ho no wo sa ya ko tua so de ensi ho ane sika dua no asa mo ye ko anse ba ye ko
IMF nsem ya ye de be siha na mako Shandoff so no ma no waka galam say kakra Shandoff. Do you think the media is to be blamed with the consistent rush to the IMF as Peter is saying?
I beg to differ.
Okay.
Because normally the media is often a reflection of the culture of the people. So whatever you see being projected on the media, by and large, is connected to how the system is already wired.
But must the media always broadcast a larger part of our wrongs and our bad side?
You see, the media, as much as it's, yes, it may be the fourth estate of the realm and all of that, but it's also a business unit. Okay. If I'm running any media outfit, okay, I'm looking for eyeballs, which will subsequently translate into revenue. To be able to generate the eyeballs, I must serve my audience what will appeal to them. What appeals to them is the very things they see around them.
Then the media is not helping.
So exactly. So that's a big conversation we must.
Media
that's a very big conversation we must have. I've always made the point that if the media is going to be effective at all, it must be independent, and the motivation must not be business. But once it is business, for example, the Pragya thing and the Kunkumbada thing that he was talking about, it gave that channel in question a lot of viewership. Adverts were coming, and you realize that after that period, other media houses also started, replicating it. And why were they? Because they want the eyeballs. If they get the eyeballs, they'll get money. So everything is tied to, money in one way or the other. But I have always made the point that, look, as a journalist, I always say that if we had a media house that was not operating because of money, the dynamics would be different. Why? Because now you would actually be influencing perspectives in the manner that you are supposed to. But until the financial motivation, if the financial motivation is still present, we'll bring another Pragyan. Because you see, the thing about our local movies, and all of this is connected to the IMF anyway. The thing about our local content is that when you broadcast it and nobody is watching and you're not getting the viewership, what's the point? You are wasting the airtime.
Then we will as well agree with Peter to say that IMF is not buying Korean and the alcohol. Timamu citizens, the media also being part, and also government. So it becomes a kind of a tripartite agreement in sending one of us to.
Let me hijack one.
Okay, sure.
You see what I was saying. I'm not condemning our media entirely. And then our Kumawood entirely. You were talking about culture, yes, true. But then in the midst of our culture, we can project a developmental agenda. And I've said that in our movies, we can position our, what we do in Ghana. We can position brand our Ghana. If we produce slippers, let's wear slippers in our Ghanaian movies. That's what I'm saying. But so the way people will see it, as you were talking about Kunkum Bagia, with how it attracted listenership and then sponsorship and all that. We can do same and then position our brand. What will take out of it will tend to be taken out of the movie if they position vertically in their movie.
You see, in those countries, their creative industry have really, that industry has really developed. But here in Ghana, there are lots of lapses. This government, for example, had promised to build, amphitheaters, and I don't want to go into all of that. Those things have not been done. You understand? But back to the substantive issue of the IMF. When it comes to nationalistic problems, I always like to assess it this way. I always say that the government is responsible to an extent, the populace to have a role to play. And anytime I'm doing the proportion, I always say that, a lot of people disagree with me, but for me, I always say that it is 70% of the people and 30% of the government. The reason I always...
Can we also say Christianity has also helped?
As for Christianity, it has just been, ordinarily Christians are supposed to be the salt of the earth and then the light of the world and all of that, but Christians have been there. I don't want to be offensive, but they've been extremely, how do I even put it?
Irresponsible?
And more, I may want to say, because you see, all the corruption that we see, the pervasive corruption in the country and, the immorality and everything that has affected our development, majority of the people at the helm of, those quarters are Christians. They are professing believers. Yet look at our
what
situation
is happening
as of now.
This is really a big issue. It's a big issue. But Peter, let's see Galamsey. From your perspective as a lecturer, what do you tell your students when you see that those who are on the field, like Shandov and the rest, will go into the forest, the pits, and bring the pictures out for all of us to see? But Galamsey, it was a top issue this year.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. I've had the opportunity to send, I've told you that I've converted most of my theoretical courses into practical courses. I lecture climate change. And consistently I've taken my students to Anum Apam. There's a place called Buong, and we've gone to Chibi Apapam. We had the opportunity to enter into the forest to compare what we see in Accra and what because some people don't know even how the forest is. So I was teaching them on what they call greenhouse gases, mitigation or absorption, whatever they call it. Yeah, we went there, and if you can see on the surface of the water bodies over there, you see some oily substance. Wow. Where from all these?
Not just in Sunan no bibi huru.
Bibi gu esunani.
Okay.
And ubeku anka first no me tena anu ma pam. Eko school. the first all the a friend at the Ucha maintain or the shed a Shunomua, Koto a PM to me channel. But we went to the deepest forest, Yahunko to Indiana in chemicals at Edicum and Emma as I main a coso. Now, because why not Asher Wire? Galam says somebody a gun house, or one can hear the best sound of because I'm paying for the Sabacafra, amongst the only answer will be. Paying also, I say, Monco, no Monco stop it, Galam say no. Then some won't be none or two for Ewo Kumase. Okay, and I'm sending my for Nokura or to him grow dear so. Until my cousin paying for no and such a woman, Gabonnet. Politicians, some I for and some woman. A friend saying, I saw for the and send him. David, Mr. I saw for the mentesophobia, the Savobi, mentesophobia, Galamsey, no question said mentesophobia, in Sabo Galamsey, so be yes, yeah, and I told you on one and the Yami. Swan. Enti obeko galam say na nanse kwa na yete say what ya aso mo say mo nkonko stop no kura na edu a e kwaje de mude ni eja mo monye soldier for the police for mo forest no mu o mbedu wona panyin bia frɛ mo pede o mo nsa machi ya de emra na de ba kwa owura dampare doctor dampare ayo me eje ho ne say na no police bi ti wanchi me yiye and na we company channel that police ni I say oh masa is here police for the a unit bia sa for no chewa commander bia mamu na so omo for say sa police visibility for no or say omo they report directly to owura dampare doctor dampare into almost say kra asoma straight to the top until me feel say sir their doctor to me aye no and go to me ma police service ni na ento me nya sa enko ba say wo asoma say yenko stop no no bi so afra fechire mo say order from above mo say machi ensan bra hwe na no sabe ka media so abrante bi etumi enya audacity e ma soldier ni say police ni say onko to fam ano Galam say Western region home. Now police this is anyone go na damudie a. Oya de kasa tia wo kwaji wu chokura firi wonsa. Me say an kratete no, obosi mi kuro mu say, near only 2 police officers. Omo nte borofo. Borofo mo te say officer master say come. What's that kasa die chire bagi sotro because borofo no onte. But sa for you no pa. Obi a ye esro no. And yes, I bugger police for ya, Sabeka friend there. On fan tell me from us. Yes, and I couldn't make a show. And the police for that also. But they are not being effective. Yeah. One of them, I'm going to want to be a super cost upon or be said to answer.
Shandoff, in a brief, do you think the anti-Galamsey stories that we see on the media is simply only for the eyes and for the screen? How has the media corroborated in this whole issue?
Before I touch on the media, you made the point, you made it in just in passing that the pastors cannot be blamed. I mean the clergy, but I think they can. Okay. Yes, I can. I want to just read this quote. Normally it's attributed to Desmond Tutu, but I'm not sure. It says that if you are neutral in situations of injustice, you have chosen the side of the oppressor. Okay. If an elephant has its foot on the tail of a mouse and you say that you are neutral, the mouse will not appreciate your neutrality. Yeah. What is the point? I find the clergy in this particular country to be I don't want to be harsh, but yes, that's why I'm really careful. Yeah, the clergy in this country are too diplomatic for my liking. Look, Galamsey in Ghana can come to a stop today if all the clergymen that we have in this country take a bold decision and tell government that, look, you already know the culprits. Like you were saying, everybody, we all know the people who are involved. That is incontrovertible. We know every single person who is involved. But the political will to, as it were, crack the whip is what is missing. But the church and faith-based organizations, the clergy, all of them form part of the moral conscience of society. Why are they not talking? Okay, so if there is a politician in your local assembly, and when it is time for harvest or any program, that fellow comes with very huge offerings and all of that, and you know very well that that fellow is complicit in galamsey, and you are not talking about the acts, but you are receiving the offering and the tithes and the Christmas hampers and all of that. Indeed, you are complicit. Your complicity is embedded in the fact that you are silent when actually you can make noise to, as it were, preserve our natural, bodies.
Now to the media, just a brief.
Yes, to the media for, I think the media has to be commended. Okay. I mean, the current journalist of the year, Erastus Asarodonko, he was my colleague at Joy News. He won the journalist of the year because of his stories on galamsey. So I think for the media, we have actually done well. No, we have. I mean, we have brought the issues to the fore. There's a colleague at Joy who has a very terrible health situation now because of some of not Joy anyway. I mean, in the course of his reportage, yes, he got involved in one or two things and all of that. But then, what I've also realized is that it is even becoming a disincentive to go and do galamsey stories. Why? Because it will not go anywhere. Okay. That's the point. That's the country we are in. You can.
Are we also not saying some of the media people are also collecting something, but you are not letting that?
Indeed. No, I agree.
Some are collecting things.
I like to be fair and neutral. Of course. Okay. People are also doing
business.
But you see. The whole Ghana is, you see, everybody is involved in one way or the other. We are all involved in building our motherland. We are also all involved in destroying the same motherland. So, but the back always stops with the clergy. I find pastors to be so influential because I mean, no matter how huge a politician is or he claims to be, he by all means sit and listen to somebody preaching.
And everybody respects
their voices.
So
that's why when they start talking in the way they are supposed to talk, in the matter, Ghana will transform. Maybe 2024. Well,
all ministers, let's rise. Yeah. So a media person is urging us to not be silent. But we know that people sometimes
some are now sending text messages. Previously, they used to criticize issues in government, but now
they are sending.
Some of them they said they can't speak openly.
So we can use a text message. I feel
send text. You see, some of these things.
I mean, all right. Let's come to environmental degradation. But before that, let's remind our viewers. Actually, for now, journalists so we are taking issues that happen in the country from the month of January till now. And yeah, Kenya na fe the Christo and some so this is to let all of us know say o Christo ni so betimi de nano ato amanyo semu anase nsemu a ekoso organ enche ye bebie ye telephone no na wo so wa frɛ na wo question bi a anase bibia wo de betudwa na de atudwa Peter, environmental degradation na nse kra de na won te kaso a omudu baabi a enchena de ko old barrier ho no omuntimi kura ntweme sanse nso ana to ahoro anwanyina ni nyina aba abegu ukọ weja spillage so eno so ehwia ba bedu kwan ni. What do you say about this?
Mr. Danka me fa asem no fan free from mom.
Okay.
Na and wa me yanka spillage wan kan dem ponde.
Ah, you be spillage. Okay. Eno na nenka ye me next story but when you can dey fafra.
One who say climate change e ya de bia Ghana hano ye fa na quite to say I don't know me who as some me can or train a coin so ye my adwene we're not taking it serious. I have to say you can't climate change quite myth. People think say okay climate change o say yankopon bo ni wiase yankopon ankasa na obese ni wiase no ye ankasa ye say wiase. Wow, we a friend is saying Fraumantem and I say Akosomo Dama, yes, Pele, any wager dama, who can want some yes, Pele, any a year, ensure ya, a train, and Yabu car, Quaimua, car, being caught a beam ya. People ya, a see who wager, who ya, actually, meaning people ding. Na ya two a seeing na tongue. Aniana tong nti adanya woso do hoyi yenim se sam biai ho no so no asase woso kese pa etasi e wo ho ane so ya hwe han atutu people na se asisi adan aton anua ne nyina ne se nsio to a enua ane haban green grass ɛwɔ hɔ no manka stop erosion no ne nyina etutu afiri hɔ nzinsuo to ahwe ni hɔ na ɛsoa anoya no fi soro hɔ no mo na de begu kan mu ebi nkɔ me yɛ den ebi ma nti ɛno no yɛ nipa su because your agencies are also more here no they are not helping us and climate change and this spillage here because we say anka ye adwuma yi a minjin di say anka voter man mu hono mo no saadi abc na spillage no in 1970s so baby no yes spillage abedu in the 80s and the last time that spillage was in 1990 it's a spillage from there no ye sign enya major spillage with regard to akosomo lake no dam no na yetumi ahwe han ma ekofo asidan ko area ho no ma yesi dan akosi ensuo na no pe wombre ko yenim se sa ensuo yi a ye no anye nyankopon na ebo sa ensuo nda because nyankopon na ebo ya na se sa ensuo no ye natural course no nipa na say na create that course for ensuo no na say nipa na create a or how betumi ayede aba ho hwe bebia nsuo yi fi otifi beniyu ho no ye fa no penjari efiri ho no ma na be fa Togo ansa na awura Ghana na ye fa say oti no na ekire say ne be koso say even benifo ene Togofo omo climate no omo de esei omo wiem ama nsuo to kese ho no na esei ne mo na se nsuo no buka fa so a se nsuo mpa anto Ghana kwa no a ehun susu aso no ebesi man mu okohwe white voters so a efiri Burkina na be pie okunungungu from Boku na sane abaha ohwe black voter efiri Burkina enam Cote d'Ivoire na be pie one potem bole area mu ho na so be pie obui na ko dwene sa leki na say ane be koso Burkina biara ne be koso Cote d'Ivoire so Cote d'Ivoire Burkina Togo Benin de be si wo bia no Ghana benya ehun ensunsu aso so then I was say ye anka ye de o say ne say ye nya sabe esuahunufo a yakwadere climate change mu ana ye ma ye media no so no ye update ye mo information say eminuate o media no or picking stories from a section ana minim area what we can join here all round ye we bi mo a o ma hye na tete mo ho in agriculture obi so ho no mo no de ne football and on koneba what we can say they should know better they can know better. But then I was so being a say onua e hwe ensuo kase bia to sa bia ba all beans no ensuaso no ba hiti Ghana so those along that area no move
enti no na chese no na yetimamufo na na so omo so mo hwe eye environment so na ese omo ye bossa
omo nyina obi fo se papa sase mma me asase me go si dan wo so a wo hwan jan me ngwaje permit wo me ma sase me go si me dan a why no was to me better say me see dan wan say wa
ye mie ye telephone na ahwefo so intimi emfre ye wi ane Shandoff so from the point of a journalist. See, sometimes I think that the kind of journalism we practice in Ghana has always been a show off. Mona Mojiji awards. You see that the person's focus is more of say okoyenwo de nya baso body bi. Not so much of so or the koyenwo de nya so that is my perspective, but you can refute that one will come. After for a number ye tade friend no eno na ye de to screen so amamo 025-625-3461 025-625-3461 obetimi afre na nsemo and ye dear to Jano so wakabe. Then ye share Ghana 50 January ABC and Yebun Kompon. We are doing a reflection of some of the major journalistic stories here. Journalists for Edinburgh to Jamai and then ye bubumu ye son abasa enisre na empenifua ewa hom so ma kire o madwen. And as we always say, the views expressed here by our visitors are exclusively their views and they are in no means the view of the station. John, you are calling from Tema.
Yes, please.
You are welcome to SoreNaHyeren. You more kwaba, yeah. Twaso.
WTV
Hey, man, sorry. SoreNaHyeren.
Me whiskey.
Okay.
Me shrink. Me pacho. And someone penning for ye can in no mu ya adwene pa na kwan bi so baby so ya me no mo enya adwene and say yen nyina nkasa ye tia no especially so wo koye yen class wo no ne dia sorry ne ba for ya yen omo a omo ye se adwuma we yen ne fa won ne ye do won tena efunuti na say nipa we say o say wa sa ya wo be da ne watimi akeka mo asema kire wo bi say papa we na wo say asas no you why na fie no dura wono no obo aye na ye si asori dan ana say ye asori na adwuma bibisa enti no ye nyina no ye di hu fo nka sofo wo be preach na nsuo no a ya hono no wasabi ene wo bottle mu na si pulpit ni mo hwa de aye Ghana nti we ye ya de papa ni baby ametie obi me de masen wo wi obi fi a wasi no otutu ntokura tutu kwan na nsu a efri ni sabia ni jana bia ni kitchen ya de nyina no enam kwan enam na oye de no kan wasmat nti ene ya kan ho bi ni yesai wo man no nti enye ya dwene yie se de di Kristo chi a me nya de a be ha obi na obi nso be ya de ka ha me ila mo as
Yeah, that's yes, yeah, that's it. Shandoff, na me ka say journalism aye wo kuro mu. Any award inti showmanship inti. It appears there is much to be desired. What do you say?
Of course, I agree that like a typical headmasters reports, there is always more room for improvement.
Yeah.
Why it is looking that way is because of, I think it was one of the stories this year. Yeah, I'm sure it's this very year. I'm not sure it's last year. It's this year. There was a report by the School of Communication Studies at the University of Ghana, and the report detailed out some of the issues affecting journalists in Ghana, and it highlighted poor compensation as one of the biggest, challenges confronting. One of the biggest challenges confronting journalists.
Yeah, you be of free friends, man. Minim sense, man. You two galam say there, but Esther Sapon.
I galam say no. I had to go.
Hey,
is that a very uncle Granny? Nina say I put to cry. Who now? What do you fear? Any Nina some penny for so come. Mpanyifo ne ka ho bi sɛ no wohwɛ nneɛma nkɔfo ko ne ade yɛ asase ɔmo de yɛ saa de no ɛsɛ ɛma ɛnam kura yɛnya no wɔ sansuo ne yɛnya nsuo ankɔbɛ so atene kogu ɛpɛ mu ɛsɛ ɛba saa so ɛpɔ no soso kura so na hoɔden no soso akɔ fam deɛ hɔ no asɛm de yɛ pamtɛw asɔfofo mo hwɛ na mo nka ne ɛyɛ de ma yɛn na mmom deɛ mɛka kakra so akyɛ sɛ ade sradeɛ na mede to no no yi program no yɛsɛ paa ne mo brɔfo no dɔso dodo
brɔfo no dɔso
na yɛnte brɔfo no nti yɛsɛ na mo matwi no ɛmbrɛ mo mmɔ nkyɛn brɔfo no yɛsɛ mo program na moyɛ no wɔ ɛmata duro sɛ yi no yɛhwɛ paa hwɛ other stations na wosɛ twi no wɔ mu nti ɛwɔ yɛ aka ma mo deɛ pamkyɛw yɛpamkyɛw mo ma
yɛbɛn ne saa
matwi no ɛmmra na yɛnti twi ne ho dɔso papa
yɛate yɛda ase enti ma wo said the ahwefo kani o
and they said asa o kan sa na o so kasa tia me nua Shandoff
oh na me
o kan cry o kan brofo no so
o beti aso sen kra for so be no bi o fante ba fa fante ba fa enti ye no be fra
as for the balance or maybe you have to be doing the
the promptings and
the translation
I take the responsibility.
Also bro for the mood.
Oh, it was not very
she mentioned him.
I didn't hear that.
I have a caller from Cape Coast. Let me pick him. Cape Coast. A better Kamfante. Christian.
Yes, sir.
A better Kamfante.
Suffering, that's as of then coming.
And council.
Yo. And I paid a discussion on the many the chica cry for politics in environment and the influence by so why in my part in fact we're going well will never be to bring home. We are so happy about that. Yes, and the this year yes, similar year political year, another year election year. yeah, best said to the people,
the new year,
especially the youth. The youth na yawo asoro no obodu baby no bon there yan aho I ye de yan akoshema ma we even forget that we are Christians. Enti ye be say the yan teachings na ye ko no ye gudu aye ye no you don't know why hit youth no pa because all the sincere for all those atrocities who politics. If we know that it's going to be a blessed year and the Lord God will lead us through and we'll have a successful election, have our president, and then there will not be any calamity. We know that the Lord God is in control.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you. Shand of Nomi Uwienuko, I have been talking about the fact that the media is kind of doing a showmanship.
Yeah, and Nomi JK media, I'm assuming they would appear to be more flamboyant. It is not their fault. 2023, Afinemi, State of the Media Reports, and School of Communication Studies FA. Sanjay and I make a bath. One of them, key one G, Numawuna ha media be. I mean, the media fraternity. Absolutely. Because of that. And money is very important. Some of the practitioners, yes, they have families, they have a lot of things. So you have to find a way, devise a way to make ends meet. Okay? No one ni taflache, obana ikole ni journalist ko. Ni ekola sane a fair report alone ko bina a fair photo shoot, a post can be a fair advert.
Okay.
Bana a endorse noko allo a fair endorsement deal. That is not the traditional responsibility of a journalist. Like ke a kwe enuchumo jeno na nojino no potena sanefi. Shiona ke me fimo miabu na kai. Aha, you have
Sano
to do
for 10.
Absolutely.
Peter,
survive. So
okay,
it's not
balance
as if journalists are not, as it were, executing their mandate.
I think I have a caller.
Compensation is one of the
compensation,
challenges.
And that is why journalists call. Now
But they are doing well. But
they are doing well. Okay. Now I don't even know whether I should classify myself as also for a journalist. I mean, I'll ask my bosses later. But Ishmael, you are on our line. Can you? Aboso, Kasefi Aboso, Ishmael.
Yo, open your cat outside. Yo, no cat outside.
What's wrong, Pa?
What's the cries are sorry?
My thing. Okay, yeah, what's up? Please go ahead.
So, Medende Ismailata.
Ishmael, go ahead. Afe mitonka pa.
The work came with the one at the father and the three worker. Now, the crab is one day. About say one, you to miss your ha, I am also making up for another with the trade. Nayaka Galamti are some too. No, to Master, the Demeton, where Galamti or 10 years you preach a once, but in paying for now, what I would man won't be the man. In the Atama the Yakan, but no, and I want to mean it.
Okay. Ishmael, where we?
Let's say, necessity about.
Okay. I think say the work can say Peter. Students open back into journalism. They say journalists was this kenim. Meanwhile, you are training a lot of students to come and practice journalism.
Well, we say the media systems now. Okay, Eastern Europe and Western Europe. Omunya incentives from the government.
Obi free as program in family. Ejapia.
I can na airport wo ye maintain pa ni e man mo ha. The time free ahochira e wo ye kuafo na ye nku asena. Isa aban aye say my nye kalamte no. Makiku kwa nhie be se edinu edianan ni. So the new sika ano kem tibis and primo hada.
Wow.
Na masa ti ko ko ni na nso e fra ti ewu. Maybe a woman say, that's a current for about some but don't have a son, mamma, to be a 1 billion. You put the event about them. Now, some of the mamma not meet Miss Ben Piani. I read an I mean, Aban to one year we are 4 years in every. You can bet me a wine, not what you have, and which you must say, it's media, it's man, yet you have to send a crabia. That's why we have not a matter of people. Now, the Sunday, I want to say, I need to be away, home one year. Or apart from the top as an hour. And the mom will be there, and you said, yeah, we one. Let's see what my young man feared you, your soul. You need to cut up the crab. Masa asenso da hɔ na nyame adom na maba na ase bi ma be ti bi
I think I'm not adom
ya ba ko bi na mi dem kakra ka ko mi tani ya ji sɛ aban ke tuma bua yan sa bi a ye be tuma ya ji nya ya na ada wa ti
yes so e da wa se teacher the ekuafo so kan so ni o nyame aye na adom na de 1 billion abɛhye ne nsa sɛ de okay mi wa do a wonya hwe to no so oje abone ben no wae.
Wow, but now me chere adie na me catch my students they say aban any ankra krebe to me aye ama Africa na Ghana aye e krabehwe kwasama okay mpempen so wiase adu no enye asoso ene sekan afuo na beboa yen my Ghana ya dum pempen so a say adwene say ye dey tractors and na say sophisticated machines eba and I'm a chemist students kwa sanka aban no kwa enton dodo men kan bi pia ban men kan dis ba ban bia na men kan bia bia enti sa amfidie ni nyina egu eye districts
of refo twa so okay ewo me telephone no so Daniel
hello
o ka say fit takrade
dog
yes oh Daniel strategic planning
yes
SP coordinator yes ATO
Dog, that means on the place never powerful. But the discussion has been so educative. And one area I think may add my voice to, especially the Galamsey issue in the country. I think social anymore as of play a very significant role. In fact, they know every corner of this country. Sir. Hello,
yeah, to nkapa to aso dan to aso.
Yeah. Say, say this fight, ye jai ama the politicians and the chiefs are. Ya be kwa ni. Intermediates, one of them panelists back or a ya can pass aso for no majority of us. They sleeping dogs concerning this guaranteed fight. But we can be so influential in fighting this menace. And the year 2024, say I saw funny bit me sorry because I am for almost na as of anymore.
Okay.
And they give so much respect to us for. And if say omudom who jilu ye na ya boa na ya fight here. I think that from the perspective of our ministers, we can get to it somewhere. At least bit me everybody every day. But we share the fight against Ghana said that I say we don't even mention our Asoforum. Their names have not been coming up at all. Meanwhile, they are agents. I think say we can get to somewhere. And year 2024, you best say Asoforum. You never win because I buy now ye. Chiefs in the other I West and our only hope is our revenue ministers. The take of
Thank you very much. A charge to keep and a God to glorify. So both our viewers and the panelists this morning are calling on reverend ministers should also rise and be part of the fight against Galamsey. I'll take my final. I think the review review. Maybe when we get into the new year, we will come and do a second reflection and the way forward. Because just a reflection and talking about the problems will not be enough. Shandov, let me take your concluding words, then I'll come to Peter.
So in conclusion, I like to reiterate the point I've often amplified on my social media platforms and in all my engagements that when it comes to the development of Ghana, when it comes to the development of any group of people, it is always they will say I'm speaking big English. It's always a concerted effort. If it's more chakpan government and then the people. You see, that truth is something that we often ignore. But if any group of people would excel, the government has a role, but the people more. Your role like a bigger role to play, because as for the government, it's only the structures and the systems and all of that. Let's assume within this Christmas festivities, everybody is saying that, look, if I cook or if I prepare my meals or anything, I would be, more, sorry to say, rational in the way I dispose my waste and everything. Environmentally conscious. You can imagine the kind of society that will build. But we have that appetite to always say, oh, there's this sanitation minister who is not doing it. I mean, what is the point? We would not even be needing a sanitation minister if we were sanitary conscious. We would not be needing anybody come and, distill our gutters and all of that. So while we are celebrating the Christmas and all of that, I just want to urge everybody that we have a very critical role to play in the development of this country, and we must embrace it. And of course, Merry Christmas to, of course, yourself, my new big brother, and then the rest of our viewers,
to your family,
everybody,
and
absolutely,
the church and everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Piero, conclusion.
Thank you. A couple of times I'm being tempted to,
Country.
So, the America, as you say, Timamufo, any abai, any asofo, is as you I saw the Montino. You best stress climate change, you won't do. You fanka, you preaching. Now, and church, no, you church, I saw the mono. Your man and go with climate change. Now, you who say, in me, you chat. Quite, yes, say. At the Ansus Bonnie, a bread, a mining, and yet we are singing, and yet as a gun pet. Na se ase aduan dua so a mesrede bia bekubia meka yen dua enua de emfaso kese eba, not only trees that will sink the greenhouse gases, but rather enua eso aduaba emoa benya biedi enoma benya biedi enipa benya biedi osofo for what you say tema motorway from Tetekwashi runabout we see tema runabout say anke duadua enuaba fruits along the road sabe kafra uto wono ma utumi sore na okomodo otibidi do you think you complain of hunger? And climate change is affecting food security ama oman mu ayedene nentie ko IMF no kase no so agina e friend say climate change aduane asem why say body amienu say 10 cities, baby kura wa bako 10 cities. You free ko do he. First one a droning in 10 cities, 5 cities. But climate change, so ko uduane ko be kono and a stem na nketenkete because ensure ni assassin mu we are airborne a tree ensure no ko ntaduane say first bayre okwa ne kase be say and now kwa me sample so say bayre adan climate change. It's young ye nonsense. Suffer and you many bad no many bad no ye ni bronya men to me metna baby kase say amen ka say metuhu amane mikromu hene
enti chia uti
me chia mikromu hene eye oponkon Nana Kojo Asiakwa the second.
No account Casa no.
And I'm the first year, and I'm the fisher paha. And if you have a boy, you don't fear, we'll have some the clay, the fair bit that way.
Where we? Yeah, that's the usher for a year, Peter Wonders. And ye no, Edin Comona, watch ya. You could move in any month for a will go and castle.
Annie,
I castle. And I've also Yenia Parkway Shandoff. Yeah, that must say Mubabe Kaya. We are looking at another time inviting the same team. I think it's a solid team.
That word solid team, you have to,
it's a patent phrase.
I mean, a solid team, but I think you know what I'm talking about.
all right. It's a team. All right, I'll show you that. Please take a say, you try your